Hello, everyone. So I was kind of tired of typing and reading on the screen. So instead of me typing a post, I just decided to make a video and just really voice what it is that I found that the research says about UDL. And in reading the post, I realized that many of you also did UDL. However, I decided to focus mine more on the K-12 and especially the middle school context. Um, I think you guys already know this, but UDL is an application, or the definition I found that stuck to me the most in the research that I read was that it's an educational application of universal design principles to differentiate learning experiences that minimizes the need for modifications for particular circumstances or individuals. And what I think that means is that we have to design a learning environment and we have to make our lessons in multiple means of representation. That way, the students with those special needs or the students that need more scaffolding don't need any additional accommodations or modifications for the content that we are teaching. Like I said, I decided to focus mine on the middle school side of it, considering I do teach middle school. Some of the things that I found in the research were actually really interesting. So the first article I read was called Successful Inclusive Practices in Middle and Secondary Schools. And basically it was just given an overview of how UDL has worked in the middle and secondary schools context. Um, one of the things, and I thought it was especially important for us since we are doing online teaching, is the use of technology. And when I thought of UDL and the use of technology, I thought it had to be some elaborate plan, kind of like blended learning or flipped learning. But in this article, it was something as simple as making the fonts larger for students with like visual impairments. And I had never previously considered that, how making just something simple like that was considered UDL. And it supports and accommodates for curricular inclusion. So the inclusion model. This year, I am doing the inclusion model where I have the EC teacher and myself in there, and we're both developing lesson plans for the diverse needs of our learners. UDL also promotes student collaboration. It teaches responsibility and self-determination. That right there really stuck out to me because as far as middle school, and as you will see later on in the research that I also read, middle school students tend to be the students that they that school is the least of their problems. School is the least of their enjoyment. And if we make it to where they take responsibility of their learning and they determine the outcome, then it will be more buy-in from them. So UDL, considering that it provides for multiple means of representation and action, it allows for students to make those decisions for their education. And also it provides for authentic assessment. And I included this too because actually in our assessment course that we're taking, or that some of you have taken before, authentic assessment is one of the things we're doing in that class. So I thought it was interesting that UDL provides for that kind of assessment. The next article I read was Students' Perception. Now, this one was perhaps my favorite article because it talks about, like I said, it's more about adolescents in middle school, and they view school as less academically competent and view school as less important. You know, if you've ever experienced or had any experience with middle school students, it's all about them, and they're going through that weird stage in life where they're changing and they don't know what to do with their body and with their emotions. That school is sometimes really the least of their worries. Um, so it was interesting to find out that high school students actually scored higher. In this study, there was about 800, I think 837 participants. High school students scored the highest on personalization and participation. UDL basically worked the best in the high school setting. And one thing that like I said, found really interesting is that female teachers are actually more they practice UDL. They implement UDL more than male teachers. So students in a classroom with a female teacher are more likely to see UDL than that of a male teacher. And the last one, effects of, or excuse me, not the last one, but the last one of the positives was the effects of the three-block model. And what the three-block model was social emotional learning, inclusive pedagogy, and systematic structures. Brief overview on all three of them. Social emotional learning, it is to combat that specific part of this model was to combat those, like I said, middle school students going through puberty, not knowing what to do with their body, not knowing what to do with their emotions, working together. That part of this model really worked on team building, collaborating, and really getting comfortable with themselves. Because if students are not safe, if students don't perceive that safe or that importance, then learning is not going to happen. The inclusive pedagogy, this is where UDL really comes into play, the multiple means of representation, action, so on and so forth. And then the systematic structure that's more administrative. So like the money allotted to classroom and inclusion and the schedule that they have to follow. And what it had is that it had a very positive impact on intellectual involvement of students. So combining these three for the purpose of student learning had definitely a positive impact on students. Now, the challenges of the implementation. This came from a presentation from a lady that was presenting of the challenges of the UDO implementation. I'm not going to read this word for word for you, but one that stuck out the most to me was to ensure multiple methods of assessment are developed using UDO principles while maintaining reliability and validity. Um, and that stuck out to me the most because yeah, UDO is great in providing multiple means for our students, but if we don't assess it the right way, then was it really worth it doing all that plan and how can we know that UDO is truly working without that proper assessment? And here's my bibliography. Again, I was just tired of typing, so I decided to make this presentation. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask.